But then I'll just have the sling for longer. Yeah.
So does that suspend your?
Okay.
Yeah, you got
Lights
straps
on. Yeah. Okay, folks, we're going to get started here, and good evening, everyone. And I'll call the meeting to order. Would you like to join us for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, Mary, please.
Olson.
Here.
Sykes.
Here.
Johnson. Here. Kellum. Kopsinski.
Here.
Coburn. Canopa.
Here. And Coburn and Kellum are excused, so. Okay, all right. And then first we have business from the public, and boy, we don't have much public here this evening. Probably because we have a very short agenda. So unless Hasso had something to say, or Alex, or I think Hasso wants a short meeting, huh?
Everybody wants me to think of something?
Oh, okay. We'll pass, huh? Okay. Next, then, we have adoption of a resolution, and this one is on page 4. And did Chief have something to say? Yep.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. Let me first of all say, Mayor Canopa, it's good to have you back here tonight.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
Good. So before you tonight, you have a resolution for the fire department to be able to accept a grant for $470,455 to be able to allow our department to purchase SCBA's in self-contained breathing apparatus. In February of this year, it came to the council for approval to apply for the grant, and just the end of last month, we were notified that we had received the grant. The grant doesn't cover all of the costs necessary. In fact, they awarded a slightly lesser amount. So at a later date, I'll be coming back after we go through the procurement process about purchasing the SCBA's, and I'm sure bring that back to the council at that point in time. But they request that we accept the grant within 30 days, and we're within that time frame, so I wanted to bring it before you tonight and get your approval on that.
Okay, all right. Council, what would you like to do?
What happens to the old compressor? Is it worn out?
The old air compressor?
Yeah.
It is having maintenance issues. It's a little over 20 years old. We've talked about maybe trying to put it in another station as a backup air compressor, but we haven't made a decision on it. It's going to depend on how much maintenance and upkeep it's going to take to keep it moving forward.
I was thinking those usually were pretty trouble-free and lasted a long time. Kind of surprised you had to buy a compressor also.
Yeah.
But it'd be good to have a backup.
Yes.
Okay, Ray, did you want to?
Move to approve the resolution.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made in a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Chief. Okay, council, there's adoption of the consent calendar, which this is C, so it's 1, 2, and then on the back side of the page is 3 and 4. So if there isn't any items that you'd like to have pulled off this evening for discussion, then I'll entertain a motion.
Move to adopt the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay, motion's made in a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right, now we have, this is item D. This would be award of contract, and that's for professional services for the Angelo Planning Group. Is it Angelo?
It is,
Pronounce that
yes,
right? Okay, yes. Did you want to say a few words, Jeff?
Sure, thank you. So we're on page 35 of your packet. Just say a couple quick words about the history of the project and where we're headed with this. We started taking a hard look at the development code back in 2016. We started by conducting an audit, completed a number of interviews, set priorities, and established a work plan for addressing those priorities. Council approved the funding for the first phase of this work plan in this fiscal year's budget, and staff recently went through an RFP process to select a consultant. As a result of that, we're recommending entering into a contract with Angelo Planning Group, or APG, to complete the project. The contract will be with APG, but they have added Sarah Architects as a subconsultant to help them. You probably recall that we have recent success with APG on a couple of different planning projects. I haven't worked with Sarah Architects before, but Bob, our planning manager, has. He's had positive past experience with them. He thinks they're going to be a great addition to the team. So you see that we are seeking authorization to enter into a $332,235 contract, but as described in the memo, we're only going to be moving forward with Phase 1 at this time, which is $112,091. So future phases would be authorized based on future budget authorizations and also successful completion of previous phases. So you'll have another bite at the apple as far as the next phases when we get to next year's budget. You'll decide at that point whether you want to move on with Phase 2 or not. Essentially, just set up the contract so that we don't have to, basically we can be more efficient with our contracting and not go through the process 3 separate times. Just do it once. If we end up using it, great. If not, then that'll be fine. So last thing is that authorization for this contract would be provided by council passing the resolution, which is on page 37 of your packet. So that's what we're requesting tonight.
Just a comment, I appreciate the way it's being structured for those 3 phases, so that can, as things progress, there may be some delays or not, and there may be some cost adjustments, but it's leaving that over a time frame to make it more efficient. I appreciate that. With that, I move that we approve the resolution.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. All right, thank you, Jeff.
Sure.
Next is page 38, and this is confirming appointments to the Albany Development Code Task Force. Jeff, would you like to say a few words on this one?
I will.
This is your item, I think, yeah.
It is. So back in May, we met with the city council to talk about public outreach process for the code amendment project that we just authorized the contract for. Council confirmed at that point that we wanted to use a task force and provided direction regarding the appointment process, and we've all been working towards filling those positions since then, and you see the proposed members on page 38 of your packet. Staff's really excited to get this project going. As I said, we started back in 2016. It's nice to be at this point where we can start making some significant progress, and we think we might be able to get our first task force meeting in place as early as September if we can get everything to come together. So we're ready and anxious to go. In talking with the proposed task force members, there seemed to be genuine interest and excitement on their part as well. So we have this positive momentum heading in, and it makes us look forward to the project as a whole. Part of the reason we went with the task force was to hear from a cross-section of the community during the conceptual stage of this project. I think the proposed task force members all have a lot to offer, and I anticipate some very good discussion. I just want to take a moment to note that I think the hardest group to reach, and when we're kind of thinking about this as this task force as part of a public outreach process, the hardest group to reach really in anything that we're doing is the portion of the community that isn't immediately or directly impacted by the project or doesn't realize that they're impacted by the project. In this case, I think we're talking about the people in the community that don't have direct ties to development and aren't necessarily aware of how the development code really shapes our community. I also think that these people likely make up the majority of our population, but they're the most difficult to engage. I think these are, as an example, I think these are the folks that we don't hear a lot from until there's a development going in on their street or next door to them, and they don't realize until then what the development code is and how it impacts them and the community. And I bring that up because I wanted to note that I wish we had a little bit more of that represented on our task force, because I think that's an important aspect for us to capture. But I do feel good about our proposed members, and I think really would like to hear now and ongoing, any ideas from council on how to engage the public. We will continue to take significant efforts to try to find creative ways to reach that group and pull in their feedback into discussions with the task force, the council, and the planning commission. So just wanted to acknowledge that and say I think it's an important perspective to capture as we step through this. So I'll wrap up with a couple of reminders. Purpose of the task force is to evaluate the issues and propose solutions to the Planning Commission and the City Council for consideration. Code amendments will have to go through 2 public hearings, first at the Planning Commission and then the City Council. But in the end, every decision that's made regarding these code amendments is going to be a council decision. So you're not handing over any decision-making authority to task force members. What staff's looking for today is confirmation of the task force members and then council appointment of a counselor to the task force. We still need to have that happen as well. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Okay, questions, Dick?
Yeah, are these meetings open to the public?
They are.
So I guess a member of the public could crash the meeting if they, so to speak, if they felt like attending.
We're going to be encouraging any involvement of the general public that we can get.
Okay. I know in the past I've crashed more than one of these kind of planning meetings. Learned about things like Central School's decrepit, needs to be torn down, that kind of thing, more than once.
Can I infer that issues that may come before this task force would be things, AKA, we were discussing at our work session?
No, the scope of this task force is limited to the priorities of the code audit that was completed and the priorities that were set by council and planning commission. And I think, I don't know if you're trying to lay one up for me or not, but I think you hit on a hard part of this process is going to be to not have scope creep. So there's going to be a lot of opinions and perspectives that have to be balanced, and there's no shortage of things that could be improved throughout the code, but we have council's priorities, and that's what the scope of work is with the consultant, and that's what we're going to stick to.
So I'm thinking like the Public Safety Committee that we had for the bond issue and stuff like that. Is there going to be an overarching moderator, somebody leading that process, or is that tag you're it?
I think, yes, I think that's tag, I'm it. And
It's in
Bob.
good hands.
Bob will have a significant role as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Bessie?
I just want to say that, one thing, I think you're going to have 12 different opinions at 12 different times, but I think the group that's put together is pretty good. I think it's pretty widespread. I don't see anyone from the housing, like the housing board or anything like that, but I think the other ones representing, I think will do a good job and pass it on.
Yeah, you may have noticed that Dan Watson is one of the appointees.
engineer.
He's also, since we're on TV, he runs K&D Engineering, so
Yes.
he's familiar with development.
Yes, he
But
is.
if I remember correctly, he is also the president of Willamette Valley Home Builders. So he's directly tied with Home
Okay,
Builders
that's good.
Association.
I wasn't real aware that he was president this year.
As you envision this rolling out, what are you looking at for a time frame? 1 to 2 years, 6 months?
Yeah, we have a very aggressive schedule. Unfortunately, it sounds like it's long, but when you look at what's required to go through the process, there's a lot of work. So the first phase, we would want to be done with the end of this fiscal year, and subsequent phases at the end of subsequent fiscal years. We've tried to package everything in a way that's logical, but also ties to budget authorizations.
And kudos if you can herd cats.
Thank you.
Now,
So we still need to appoint somebody from council, correct?
Right.
And if
Yeah,
there are
I'd
any
like to,
ideas on,
nominate the mayor if she's up to it physically with her injuries.
Yeah, I'd be glad to.
When-
So, if the
I
council
think she's
wishes.
been involved with planning and so forth for a long time, since 96, 22 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Is anybody else clamoring to do it?
Well, I was going to say, since we're short 2 counselors, can we wait?
Yep,
I
we
think
sure
we got
can.
4 votes.
Well, I understand that, but
Maybe someone else
maybe
is interested.
Bill or Rich would have input on that, or since they're not here, give them a chance. Just a suggestion.
There's no rush.
It certainly works from staff standpoint. I would appreciate confirmation of the other task force members so we can start communicating with them. And then if you have any other ideas on how to facilitate discussions or input from the greater portion of the community, sure open to it.
I move to approve the staff members that are listed, or the potential task force members as listed.
I'll second that.
Okay, all right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, all right, and then we can bring that back. I just have to say, I do feel it is pretty weighted towards the development community side and not enough here on citizen and just
Yeah.
basic in neighborhoods. So I do kind of worry about
Yeah.
the outcome to it. You know, when we went through our great neighborhoods years ago, and, you know, Dick would remember it, where we went out and held community meetings throughout the whole city, getting neighborhoods, you know, input, what they would like to see, what would build a great neighborhood. So it was sort of the foundation for us to be able to build the codes off of, you know, what we really heard from what the citizens, and mostly where I see for North Albany residents that have been having a lot of development up there and a lot of contentious issues, it'd be nice to hear from them. What do you think would be, what are you seeing that's happening with development? What would you like to see differently to make sure to move towards that great neighborhood? And the east side is picking up a lot of development too, and it just kind of, it's nice to be able to engage those residents in that process, but.
If you're willing and the council's willing, maybe you and I could spend some time talking about what, based on what you've done in the past with great neighborhoods, which I wasn't a part of, what you think might work
Yeah.
and how to reach out to the public a little more, and we can bring something back and
I think
see
I
if we
still
get
have the
buy-in.
old packet of file from it. So.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have a lot of 22 years worth of old stuff filed away, but.
You're saving that long? I only saved 10 years.
I know. Yep, I got quite a bit, so, yeah. Okay, all right, thank you. Next, council, is page 46, and this would be designating a voting delegate for the 2018 League of Oregon Cities Conference. So I think Bessie, myself, Mike, and Peter are all going. The voting delegate usually is done on a Saturday morning, first thing on a Saturday morning, like 8 o'clock, and it's usually just the slate of board of directors that would be voting on it. So it's whoever would be there on Saturday morning and then having an alternate. So does anybody know for sure if they're going to be there
I'll be
on
there Saturday morning. We're
on
staying
Saturday?
overnight, so yes,
So,
I'd be glad to.
okay. I'm going to be catching a ride and then driving, or coming back each evening. I won't be staying down there, so I'll just.
Well, it looks
but-
like it's going to be Betsy then.
So, yeah, Bessie, and then we'll need a
You want to be the
alternate.
alternate, or?
I can do
So,
that.
will you be there on the Saturday, you think? Okay.
Sounds good.
All right, so you do want Bessie and, as the main voting delegate, and then Mike as the alternate. Okay, we need a motion for that?
I'll move to nominate Bessie as the voting delegate and Mike Sykes as the alternate delegate for voting at the LOC conference.
Second.
Okay, all right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. All right, business from the council. So Bessie, anything?
I was just gonna ask, I guess the chief left. Do we have any firefighters out of the area, Peter, that you
4.
know of? You still have 4? I noticed that they were changing everything around quite a bit and stuff, and so I just wondered, so it's just
And
4.
their,
That's not
and
bad.
their expenses and the overtime expenses are all
Yes.
backfilled by the state when that comes through overtime, so. yeah.
Because we were down to Crater Lake last weekend, and let me tell you what, it was awful. then there started one by Paisley while we were there, and so all fire departments have to be just stretched really thin. It's kind of like, don't have a fire in your own city because you're there elsewhere, so. That's all.
Okay, all right, Dick, anything? Okay, Ray?
No.
Mike? No. Okay, and I didn't have anything this evening, Peter?
Just that John Bradner, Chief Bradner, had briefed earlier today that the Millersburg Station was delivered. It's a portable building. It'll be constructed, and they'll probably open on September 15th. And the only other thing is I feel it's good to report to you that despite the fact that we said that there was a lot of material for future council meetings, as we look into the future, there's quite a light schedule. So we've proposed to cancel the October 8th work session and give you another night at home unless something comes up. So I'll get word to you by the end of this week on that. Okay?
Keep your fingers crossed.
You don't want us to try and fill all that agenda?
Yeah.
Not if you don't have to.
Spread it out.
All right,
please.
okay, anything else? Staff have anything? So, okay, so then our next meeting would be Monday, September 10th, because we've got Labor Day week, and then September 12th is for that Wednesday, and with that, we're adjourned.